Good evening, all. Welcome to the 2023 Holly Springs Chamber Forum. We are delighted to have you join us tonight for this significant event presented by the Chamber of Commerce as well as the Town of Holly Springs as part of our Governmental Support Programming Partnership. This has been thoughtfully organized by the Government Relations Committee of the Holly Springs Chamber of Commerce. First and foremost, it's essential to emphasize that tonight's event is nonpartisan. Our aim is to provide a platform for all candidates to engage with our community and to share their perspectives. This year, in our ongoing efforts to promote informed voting, the Government Relations Committee introduced a voter's guide. You can find this comprehensive guide on the Holly Springs Chamber of Commerce website at hollysprings.chamber.org. In this guide, you will discover responses from all 9 candidates to a series of questions designed to help you make an informed decision when casting your vote on November 7th. Additionally, the voter's guide offers detailed candidate information, including their respective terms, websites, and social media platforms where you can reach them at. Municipal elections are often underestimated in their significance, yet they hold a direct impact on our daily lives in and around our beloved community. November 7th is the date to mark on your calendars, and we encourage all eligible voters to exercise their right to vote. In the 2023 municipal election, there are 3 seats at stake. 2 of these are standard 4-year terms, and 1 seat is unexpired with a 2-year term to finish Christy Bennett's position. The questions posed tonight have been sourced directly from our community. Over the course of 1 month, we actively solicited the community for questions, and they were carefully reviewed and structured by the Government Relations Committee. It's important to note that only the committee members are privy to the questions that will be asked this evening. Each question will be drawn at random, as well as the candidate's name, until all candidates have had the opportunity to answer the questions. A member of the Government Relations Committee will oversee the timing on an iPad that will also have a digital face for the candidates to be able to see. At the end of the timer will sound. You can finish your sentence, but go no further. The moderators are able to go ahead and cut you off. Can't cut off your mic, but we can go ahead and ask you to finish up. To maintain the integrity of the event, candidates are not permitted to interrupt others during their answers. We aim to create a respectful and constructive atmosphere for the exchange of sharing ideas. To those in attendance, first, please silence your phones. In order to maintain decorum and fairness, we request that there be no clapping, yelling, shouting, or heckling of any candidates during or after their responses. Any disruptive behavior will result in you being asked to leave. Again, please silence your phones. Let's make this a respectful and informative evening where we can all learn about the candidates and their positions. Thank you for your cooperation. At the conclusion of tonight's programming, each candidate will be granted 3 minutes for closing remarks, providing them an opportunity to leave you with their final thoughts. Following the forum, we also invite you to engage directly with the candidates in the hallway to pick up any campaign materials or ask additional questions. Once again, we extend our warmest welcome to the 2023 Holly Springs Candidate Forum. We thank you for your participation and commitment to serve our community. And thank you to those in the audience for making this a priority in your evening tonight. Thank you.
Okay, we will start with the opening remarks. As Tanya mentioned, you'll have 3 minutes to answer these questions, and the order will be chosen at random.
Opening remarks are just openings if they don't say anything. Maybe we just go to the question.
Okay, first person will be Jack Turnwald.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Jack Turnwald. My pronouns are they, them. And I have been a resident of Holly Springs for 2 years. I moved to North Carolina in 2008. And I am a partner and parent of 2 children who are in the Wake County public school system. As somebody who's always been very involved in the political scene wherever I've been, I arrived here right in the midst of our discussions about the non-discrimination ordinance. And as a member of the LGBTQ community, I found a lot of difficulty with some of the conversations that were being had, and the lack of inclusivity in our community. And in talking with friends and neighbors, started to discover that there were a lot of folks who felt like they weren't being well represented by our local government. And where normally, after only 2 years, I myself would give kind of the side eye to someone for running for office in a town, I started to get questions from other community members saying, will you consider running? And as a community-based person, I had to reflect on that seriously. And after talking about it with my family, felt like it was the right thing to do. And so I'm here tonight because in all the time over those 2 years that I've been to our town council meetings, I've been seeing issues that we need to deal with for our responsible growth, with water that we have in the area, with the potential for intra-town transit in order to help with some of our traffic issues. We have so many issues that we can be addressing, and I'm ready to be a part of that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Staci Almquist.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Staci Almquist, and I hail not from North Carolina, but from the great state of New Jersey. I've also lived in Pennsylvania. I am a Penn Stater. I am newly arrived to North Carolina in June. I am a certified teacher. I hold multiple master's degrees. I have a great deal of industry experience, learning, and knowledge. I'm very passionate about education and success. I'm also a coach and soon to be school counselor and possible principal. I really believe in seeing people succeed through education, and I am very interested in helping the community to advance, succeed, to see the community members work together, build teams and alliances so that we can help everyone be successful going forward. It's a true belief of mine. I am the daughter of a single parent, was raised with very humble beginnings, and I've come to realize that it really takes a whole community to come together to make things happen, and being part of the town council for me would be a great joy, because I love to help improve processes and procedures. It's something that I've done in my career, and that I'm very passionate about making things work effectively, because that's where I believe people can succeed. So one other thing that I'm also very passionate about is math education. I believe it's through math education where people can achieve great confidence in leadership roles and achieve great success in their lives. So thank you so much for coming tonight and for this opportunity. I look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you. Any Drees?
Did that work? Yes. I wasn't expecting you to say my name so quick. Thank you. I wanted to start off thanking the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for putting this event on. I also want to thank all the members of the community, those who submitted questions, those who are here tonight, and you folks watching on YouTube. Thank you all. Local government matters. Your voice matters. So thank you for being a part of this. My name is Annie Drees. I'm running for the 2-year seat. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, so you can say that I've always known what it feels like to be part of a community. I'm a mom of 2 teenagers, been happily married for 20 years, and I'm an electrical engineer. Not a natural politician, but here I am. I am on my HOA board in Sunset Oaks. Shout out Sunset Oaks people. and a longtime community volunteer here in Wake County. I've lived in Holly Springs. I've completed 6 years. I'm starting on my 7th year here, and originally from Austin, Texas. And in Austin, we have a lot of bumper stickers that say, I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as quick as I could. That's how I feel about Holly Springs. When I moved here, it's a beautiful place, a welcoming community, and a very special place. My platform is a lot about responsible growth. That's such a huge umbrella term. It encompasses so much, and I'm sure we're going to get into the details later. Infrastructure, obviously traffic, water quality, tree growth. It touches on a number of things, and I'm passionate to see our town continue to develop a sustained plan for the future, and one that we communicate openly, which leads to my second point, an inclusive community. We are truly better together, and I see the potential of the town working with businesses, working with schools, because we need each other. The success of business, the success of schools, that brings people here, that brings success here, and is good for the town. Lastly, accessibility and transparency. On my HOA board, I really drove for clear communication to the neighborhood, and I strongly believe that it's an important piece here. I look forward to getting into more details with you guys, but again, thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Scoop Green.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you again for spending your time with us this evening to get to learn a little bit more about who we are as your potential next town council members. I've lived in Holly Springs for 19 years with my wife and my 2 sons. I can't call them children anymore. They are now 19 and 21. Along that 19-year period, we have had 4 dogs and 1 cat. I've been a volunteer for multiple organizations throughout Holly Springs and the Holly Springs community. I have served on several county-wide boards that focused on education, transportation, and tourism, and those areas of focus impacted not only Wake County, but also what was going to happen here in Holly Springs. My 9 years serving as the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce here in Holly Springs, I have initiated several programs to help support the business community, one of which the town's Economic Development Department still uses today, and that's our Business Retention and Expansion Program. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I'm going to bring to the table that I don't believe the 3 candidates who are running for the 2-year unexpired seat are going to bring with them. I have a relationship with current town staff. I have a very good working relationship with the Economic Development Director, the Infrastructure Director, and one of the town assistant town managers. I can take that relationship along with my personal and life experience and my leadership style and move into the town hall and have those relationships immediately, and those 3 individuals will help open up the doors for me for others. I have a really good working relationship with the mayor. I am 1 person away. Me and Councilman Forrest have an individual friend that we both are friends with. Me and Councilman Berry are connected by 1 realtor that the 2 of us could sit down together and have that conversation. More importantly, my work with the chamber and my current work with the YMCA of the Triangle, I still have those relationships with county-wide business leaders that I can have that conversation with in regards to transportation, education, water capacity. I can have conversations with those leaders in Wake County who will help impact what's happening here in Holly Springs. I've got 32 seconds left. I yield it to one of the other speakers.
Thank you. Chris Deshazor.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. And my name is Chris Deshazor. I am running for the 4-year seat for Town Council. First, as the other said, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for the Chamber for putting this on, and thank you for the moderators. I'm Chris Deshazor. I've lived in Holly Springs for 16 years. My wife, Heather, and I moved here in 2007, and we brought our 2 sons, and we raised them here. And they have both grown up. One has graduated college, the other's in college. And professionally, I actually lead talent development for a software company. So quite a few certifications such as situational leadership, crucial conversations, change management. Those are things that are in my backpack, that I call it, that I work with. But more importantly for the town, I have been serving the town for the past 6 years on the planning board. I am the current chair of the planning board, have been the chair of the planning board for the past 2 years. And one of the things that's interesting is that the planning board's responsibility is to make recommendations to the town council. And in 6 years on being on the planning board, all of our recommendations have gone through except for 3, and we always work together. So we work together to make things happen for the betterment of this town. So why am I running? Serving is something that's kind of in my background. When I was a little kid, I've told the story before, I was a little kid, I used to watch my mother take food to the Red Cross. And I was a little kid, and it just stuck with me. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And so serving is something that I want to do. When I joined the planning board, my first thought when I joined the planning board, and Heather will admit to this, I said, we're going to solve the traffic issue, because we came from D.C., and the traffic in D.C. was crazy, and the traffic here at the time wasn't bad, but then it started getting a little bit worse. But what I learned was a lot of things about the Unified Development Ordinance, a lot of things about traffic, a lot of things about the water and how we get water and the development. And so I learned, and I've used these 6 years to learn the processes and a lot of the things about the staff in the town. We have one of the best staffs around. And if you didn't see it, just today, Holly Springs was named as one of the best towns in America. That comes from planning, that comes from the staff, that comes from a council. There are lots of good things that have happened already, and I want to continue that. So I hope to earn your vote, and I hope to talk about some of these things tonight as we go through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Dennis?
Hello. Hi, everybody. I just want to thank everybody for coming this evening. We have a lot of people, a lot of friendly faces. My name is Brian Dennis. I am running for the 4-year position. I want to tell you, when everybody can remember a few years ago when things really felt hard, at the hardest in our country. For my family, it seemed very difficult to find a place that was safe and friendly. And so sometimes you don't know when it's going to happen. And so, you know, for us, God lit a candle, and we found Holly Springs. So I've lived in many places. I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey. I've lived in Manhattan. I've lived in Los Angeles. And they all have their perks, but none of these towns or cities has the charm of Holly Springs. I moved here in 2020 with my wife and my 8-year-old son. And when you know you found home, you want to continue to make it as great a place as possible. So that's why I'm running for town council. I have no political agenda. I'm a business person. I'm here to serve, and I love being in front of people, and I've learned a lot listening to people, so we're going to take that and we're going to move forward. I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, a resilient boy in a depressed neighborhood, and I was access to political discourse and public debate by the age of 7. My mother actually had a very similar position to this. I used basketball to attain a college scholarship at Lafayette College, and I think I can count 6 broken noses, a bad knee, 7 broken fingers, 6 concussions, but it was more than worth it, and that was my way out. So anyway, I did get a law degree later on. I've had 25 years of private sector experience. First, after my law degree, I spent many years working with senior leadership in Fortune 100 companies, Oracle, Yahoo, and I helped them scale their businesses. As you know, there was a point where they grew very quickly. In my second career, I've been a financial consultant working with families, individuals, with my team in all aspects of their finances. So I want to take that financial experience, and I really want to treat the town as a business. We're at an inflection point where things can go in a number of directions. So in terms of budgeting, business acquisition, overall stewardship of the town, process is great, but this is a business, and we have a AAA rating. That's important. Well, I want to talk about that tonight. So in conclusion, what I want to bring and what I promise to bring is leadership in action. And what that means is I want to be personally accountable to you guys. In order to do that, you sit face-to-face, proactively, you listen, and you learn. That will be the catalyst, because the elixir of this town is the people's pride and their civic duty, and I'm going to honor that. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis Groo?
Again, I want to thank everyone for coming out. Thank you for the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. My name is Travis Groo. I'm a father of 2 teenage kids, which is a challenge in its own. I'm running because I truly believe all politics are local. We may not be able to change things on a federal level and even on a state level. And even though we're in the middle of a 40-year inflation, I believe that all politics are local, and we can protect our pocketbooks, and we can protect our private property and protect the citizens through smart legislation and really keep in mind whose money we're spending, which is your money, and putting the power back into the people's hands where it belongs, not in our hands. This is your town and our town. And I'm running because I'm a principled individual who believes that small businesses are the backbone of a community. And if we can make small businesses thrive here, then Holly Springs becomes a more unique place to live. And that means setting up situations to where they can stay here and not get taxed out of house and home, and be able to open up shop. And also want to pour into new business development and startup businesses that are looking at Holly Springs, because it's a wonderful town. I did grow up in Texas, and I was born in Texas, so I've got that Texas mentality, by the way, Annie. But I believe in freedom and liberty for all people. And even when it's unpopular, I believe that we all have equal rights under the law. And I believe that bringing this equality message of just individual responsibility and individualism is very important. So again, giving the power back to the people where it belongs and responsibly moving forward as this town is exploding. It's one of the most popular places in the country. And I want to be the advocate that grows responsibly, grows fair, and is a voice of the people. And I want to listen to you and put your ideas to work. So thank you again for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Danielle Houston.
Good evening, everyone. I also want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting the forum this evening, and thank all of you for being in attendance tonight and taking the time to become involved and informed voters on November 7th. It's so important, and it's your election. I'm Danielle Hewetson, and I'm running to serve the community for 4 more years on Town Council. I'm just getting started. Just over 7 years ago, my husband and I moved to Holly Springs from the Midwest, where we both grew up, went to school, got our degrees. We were excited to come down to North Carolina, start our careers, start our family, and we had the intention of heading back home after a couple years. And what happened was that a couple years into living here in Holly Springs, we realized Holly Springs was home. There was, nothing left that was going to take us back. In every moment since then, bringing our 3 baby girls home, becoming an involved and passionate member of this community, falling in love with all that is Holly Springs, I've come to understand that there's nowhere else in the world I would want to raise my own young family. It's of my character that I feel compelled to be involved in the well-being of the communities that become a part of me in that way. In early 2022, I applied and was appointed to the Board of Adjustments, which served as an early foundation of knowledge surrounding the Unified Development Ordinance and our zoning laws. Shortly following that, in January of this year, I was appointed to Town Council. The last year served as a wealth of experience, yet I maintain a fresh perspective that I believe is what best will represent our growing population. Are you aware that 1/3 of our population is under the age of 18? 1/3. What this says to me is that Holly Springs is full of families, young families. I don't desire to change so much about Holly Springs as I do to protect and preserve the foundation and character of our once small town while preparing in all ways for the future. embracing Holly Springs' full potential. Over the past several months, I've spoken with numerous longtime residents who stressed to me how much Holly Springs has changed in the last 20, 30, or in the most recent case, 38 years since they moved here or some were raised. This puts to shame my 7 years, which feels like the median time lived in Holly Springs anymore. I think I talked to as many people who have been here less time than me as have been more. It's amazing how many people are coming into this area every day. Those people don't push back on the growth or say they wish it hadn't happened. What they say is that Holly Springs has a charm, something truly special that they're fearful will become lost if we don't make a conscious effort to preserve and cherish the beautiful and rich history of the town in our efforts of improvement. Let's not lose Holly Springs. I'm running for Holly Springs Town Council to help make our town as exceptional a home to every resident as it has been to me and my own family.
All right, can y'all hear me? My name is Tim Congelton, and I'm just a moderator. So real quickly, just everybody take a breath and smile. Y'all are pretty serious up there. I know this is kind of a tense moment, but y'all just relax for just a minute because y'all are the face of Holly Springs. Y'all are what make up Holly Springs. When I married my late wife in 1990 and moved here, there were 900 people in Holly Springs. Now we have how many, Mayor? 50. About 50,000. So nobody's from around here. Everybody is from somewhere else. But, you know, this is all of our town now, even though I'm technically in the ETJ. So we're going to pose these questions. Just be you. Just answer them as yourself. Relax. Smile a little bit for us. Okay, look good for the camera. And so we'll start with Jack. Jack, you get to go first twice now. So our question for each of you, in random order, is, Jack, why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
I love this question. So I have been voting since I was able to register, and actually my first 2 times voting, I was overseas. I was living overseas, so had to vote by absentee ballot. I learned that even when the process is hard, it is worth doing. And when we get to municipal elections, this is really where our day-to-day is decided. This is where our traffic patterns come from. This is where our development comes from. This is where our connectivity as a community comes from. And in the United States, we actually have very low voter turnout for municipal elections. And people need to understand all of the issues that come from a town council or a city council so that they are motivated to come out and vote. And I don't care who people are voting for on any part of the political spectrum. It is important that you show up and exercise that right and responsibility. Even in times where I have actually lived in the county and not been within town limits in places that I've lived, I've worked on municipal campaigns in order to support candidates who I wanted to see get elected, because there are lots of ways to participate, even if you can't vote.
Thank you. Travis, and guys, I'm just going to go by first name. We'll just be a little more personal here, okay? Travis, same question. Why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
Great question. Again, all politics are local. We can change things in our backyard, in our communities, in our neighborhoods and communities much faster than we can on a federal and state level. And so being a active member of the community and swaying the direction of the way your town or city is going to go is why you vote. And it's very important. And like Jack was saying, like statistically speaking, municipal elections turnout is usually low. So I'm hoping that changes in Holly Springs for this race because it's very important to vote so that your voice is heard, so that your involvement is counted. And again, you decide which direction this town goes by your vote. So that's why it's extremely important. And I encourage all of you to vote on or before November 7th. Thank you.
Chris, why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
It's super important. I've always voted. When I moved here in 2007, one of the first things that I did was go to register to vote. A lot of my ancestors couldn't vote, and there are lots of laws passed so that folks could vote. And for me, that is extremely important. But secondarily, on the local level, where else can you go and see the folks that are running the town and have a conversation and have a coffee and meet with someone and make changes happen? The way that I ended up on the planning board was I was coaching with someone, and he said, Chris, have you ever thought about the planning board? And I said, what is this? He explained, and I did a little research, and I thought that was great. And I've gotten a chance to really make a lot of inputs and affect some of the changes in some of the things in this town. And so for me, being able to vote in a municipal election and affect the things in this town is super important. And as everyone would say, I encourage the folks to vote, but I have a challenge. This is my challenge. The folks that are here tonight, all of you guys are going to vote. I know that. But I challenge you to take someone else to the poll. Get someone else to the poll. Someone that you know that normally wouldn't go to the poll. And say, hey, November 7th, because what's going to happen on the 7th? It's a Tuesday. Kids got soccer games. Work's going to happen. You got to get dinner on the table. Traffic is going to be bad, so you're struggling to get home. And people are going to say, I didn't have a chance to vote. So make it a priority. Thanks.
Scoop, why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
Tim, it's not just this election, it's every election out there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the tail end of a baby boomer, married to a Gen X who has Gen Z. So we talk about voting an awful lot in my house, and it's driven mostly by my wife, who was preached by her father the importance of voting so that every voice is heard, every vote matters. So many times we just sit back and say, oh, well, there's not a whole lot on the ballots. There's not a lot of issues out there. We're just fine with what we got. I'm just going to sit this one out. And that is the wrong approach we have taken for too many years. Everybody's voice counts. Everybody's vote counts. And I'm sorry, if you're not going to cast that vote, your complaints may fall on deaf ears in my driveway. Because if you're not willing to put in an effort to get to know the candidates, to get to know the issues, to get to know the policies, and figure out that your vote does matter, then we need to help all those people understand the importance of doing that. And one of the things I can use everybody's help with in Braxton Village, the group of 6 12-year-old boys who I give a free snow cone to almost every night, they are not going to vote for me because the rumor is I'm going to stop them from playing soccer on the street. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the issue is I have yet to see them boys with a soccer ball. Basketball, that's another story. Football, that's another story. Bottom line comes down to this. We cannot make change at any level if people are not willing to vote. And so if you want to see the change you want to see, have the conversation with the right people, have that right conversation, and get everybody you know to go to the polls and cast that ballot.
Annie, why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
Well, first of all, why you should vote in this election is there is a large Parks and Rec bond on the ballot. This is you deciding where your tax dollars go, and so I definitely encourage you to vote in this municipal election as well as all municipal elections. Longtime voter, I believe that municipalities is where you preserve the quality of life for yourself and for your family. Being on the HOA, I get weekly interactions with requests. You know, can I put this in my yard? My neighbors dog is really annoying me, and there are a number of times that, we can handle it in the neighborhood, but a lot of times we have to redirect them to the town. The town has ordinance that, ensure public safety, that noise ordinance. The town even tells you where to park. We all know how important that is. So what I would say is municipalities is where the decisions, like Jack said, the decisions that affect your day-to-day, that's where they happen. Your voice matters, your opinions matter, your experience matters. You don't live in my neighborhood. Well, some of you do, but maybe you don't. Your point of view is different, and you bring something to the table. So not just vote, but engage. Come to town council meetings, speak up. You deserve to be heard, and town council should be a representation of the people who live here. So get out and vote, please.
Danielle, why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
When I have been talking to people lately about why it's important to get out and vote in this municipal election, any municipal election, the phrase that I continue to use is that it's close to home. And I mean that in the literal sense and, of course, in all the changes that we can affect as a town council. So, of course, there's no way we'll get through the night without talking about traffic and roads, but these are things that they are the roads that we are on every day. They're the roads that get you to work and to play, to your friends' houses. Your kids in the backseat screaming. All of these things are affected on our roads. Close to home. So, our public safety, the things that, that keep our families safe. We can affect change in those ways, providing resources to the organizations that keep our families safe and keep our community how it is. The parks that our kids are playing at. All of these things close to home. They're what matter to us. They're what are part of our every single day life. Some of the things, we tend to take for granted because they are the things that are there. Like I said, the parks, the infrastructure, things that that we don't think of as this extra thing, this thing that we need to go vote for, but it is because it affects our quality of life. It's the reason. All of these things are the reason we're in that 98th percentile that Chris mentioned. The reason that we're time and again one of the safest communities, time and again one of the best communities to live. I know it. I love it seeing printed. I'm not, thrilled of how many more people are going to want to join in on the party, but it's important. It's close to home. Municipal elections are worth showing up for as much, if not more, than any other. Thanks.
Staci, why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
The locus of control. We want to sit and blame the president. Oh, let's blame the president. Let's blame Congress. Let's blame the federal government. It's all their fault. It's our fault because we can control what happens around us. We don't have to put the blame so far away. The president doesn't decide whether potholes on our roads get filled. The president doesn't decide what businesses come to your town. The president doesn't decide what gets built where. The president doesn't decide what kind of roads we have, which way they go, or what the safety is of our town. The president doesn't decide how our water quality is or what is being pumped into our local environment as far as chemicals from companies or any buildings. They don't decide it. It happens locally. We keep wanting to think, I know, who the president is or who's in Congress. Those are big elections that gets tons of attention, that everyone pays attention to. Why you can't not pay attention to it? Because you have 1,000 commercials slamming it down your throat. But we need to know we can control what is close to us, what is around us. We need to take action and think about what's happening to us locally, gets decided locally. So we need to vote in those local municipal elections to make sure we show that control by being there and by voting. Thank you.
Brian, Why do you feel it's important to vote in a municipal election?
I think there's many reasons. I think, first of all, it's very inspiring to be able to vote in Holly Springs. You automatically get a seat at the table. The basic things are the economy, safety. You get to vote on these things, right? You get to vote on how to improve the traffic. You get, most importantly, you get to vote on things that might give you more time with your family, right? 56% or plus are families with one or more children in this town. That's 30,000 people. That's the bulk of the town. And so those things are important. I think the second thing is, there's relationships involved, right? I mean, when we're done, years from now, are you going to remember these things that we talk about? No, it's just for a legacy of our family, but for our children, but also, you remember the people that you were with, and you remember the people that you thought about the same things, and let's vote on this, and let's talk about this, right? That's part of civic duty. There's many components of civic duty. It's not just voting. It's a private decision. You can vote or not. I'm not going to pontificate about that. But I think in the end, in the final analysis, we all feel pretty good about that. I also think in the end, and I do teach this to my son Matthias, is that we don't get a pass because we were born here. I know sometimes you see people that have come here and they spend 7 years becoming citizens, and it's a very emotional thing. And you say, what drives that? Because they earned it, right? They worked to have that. And so we don't get a pass. They stopped teaching civics many years ago, and I think that was a mistake. So from a patriotic perspective, if you love the country, if you love the Constitution, for those reasons, it fills you up to know that you get a chance to fulfill what's been going on. Because in the end, it is a legacy, right? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna leave these things? And we get a seat at the table. And for all those reasons, it's a lot of fun to do.
Thank you for your answers, everybody. We will move on to the next question. Danielle, you'll be the first to answer. The question is, what do you think are the 3 most important issues that the town should address over the next election cycle?
It's a great question. So the most important issues, one of the, I'll go through the 3 things that I'm focusing on, because obviously that's where I believe our time and resources should lie. So one of the most important is going to be a focus on small business and our economy, bringing in small businesses and supporting the small businesses that we have here. In addition to that, one of the things that affects both those small businesses and our residents is going to be the infrastructure. It's not the most exciting to talk about, but it is one of the things that truly affects every one of our residents every single day. Talking about strategically planning ahead to facilitate the travel of our residents on our roads, the water is already in motion as far as being able to truly plan strategically for not just the next few years, but for the next few decades, for the true future of our town. And all of these things would be for naught if we're not able to count on the safety of our residents. So our public safety, absolutely, we should be able to put into their hands the resources that they need to maintain Holly Springs status as one of the safest municipalities in North Carolina, something we should be very proud of and help to facilitate as well. So I think those 3 things are our focuses for the next few years, but really, make a town what it is and makes Holly Springs what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Jack. I promise we're not intentionally drawing your name first.
Bless it. When I had nightmares about this, this was the
This
nightmare.
is it. My apologies. I almost put your name back, but I was like, I don't want to get accused of anything here.
No, it is what it is.
What do you think are the 3 most important issues that the town should address over the next election cycle?
All right, 3 most important issues. So responsible growth is at the top, and that encompasses so many things. Right now in Holly Springs, our housing market has a missing middle. Middle income housing is only 2 to 3% of the market. We're also not having enough rental units. Think about if your kid is graduating from college and they want to live close to home, and there's nowhere for them to get a first-time apartment, let alone a first-time home purchase. We have people who are aging in place on fixed incomes, and if they want to downsize or be able to stay here for the long term, right now there are very few places for them to go. So looking at diversifying our housing market as we grow responsibly is super important. Also, a lot of those folks don't have the level of connectivity that they could have. And so having some intra-town transit that we could look at, talking through Campo, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and ensuring that our water is safe to drink. We've had advisories from the Cape Fear River about forever chemicals. That is our water source for Holly Springs. We need to be well informed about that. The second issue for me is equity for all. When I'm knocking doors and talking to residents lately, one of the things that has bothered me the most is that people who live in the neighborhoods that have been here the longest have no sidewalks. A lot of their roads have not been resurfaced recently. Some of those neighborhoods, I couldn't even find a fire hydrant. And that, in fact, affects your insurance rates. Making sure that equitably across this town, people are getting the resources that they need is super important. And last, transparency and accountability, because you all deserve to know what and how things are happening.
Thank you. Travis, you're up next. What do you think are the 3 most important issues that the town should address over the next election cycle?
It's a great question. Housing affordability is a big deal in our city and across Wake County and this area. And I'm not talking about affordable housing. I'm not talking about government-funded, subsidized housing. I'm talking about housing that you can afford to live here and work here at the same time. And it's a supply and demand issue. It always is. And so our supply is low, the demand is high. Therefore, we need to allow for builders to be creative in their developments and allow the architects and the developers to get creative to up our supply so that we can have more affordable housing. It's a big deal. It's going across our whole county, but I think Holly Springs can be different if we do it smart and we do it in a very responsible way. Another issue is small businesses. I'd like to see small businesses come here because the tax rates are low, because they're not being gouged, and we're offering incentives for small businesses to come here and protecting their pocketbooks long term so that it's sustainable, so they can stay here. And also just protecting people's private property. You own your property. You have the right to do whatever you want to do in your own property. Just don't infringe on the rights of another person's property. So with that said, eminent domain is a big deal as we grow, just to protect people's property from being trampled over, and just protecting people's individual responsibility. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Scoop, same question.
You know, as we continue to grow as a community, and the numbers are out there, we're going to continue to grow as a community. I don't know that there's necessarily 3 key issues we need to focus on. I like to believe what we're going through is simply growing pains. And when you're talking about growing pains, you know, then you would say, well, what's one of the issues with growing pains we may be having? And that's our water capacity. Are we investing in our future so we have the water capacity that we need? Are we investing in future growth so we have the housing options those that are moving here have? So our growing pains are we having conversations about investing in our future growth in those areas? Are we having conversations with the right people about supporting the business community? And I think 2 quick snapshots you can look at in regards to supporting the business community is that permitting process for somebody to even build here. What does that look like? And how in detailed is that? And is that something that we can have conversations about, that maybe we can streamline that just a little bit with those that are trying to invest in our community? You know, I mentioned early on the Business Retention and Expansion Program. For those of you who aren't aware of it, we would go visit businesses in town, and a couple of questions we ask them is, do you own or do you rent? And they would tell us, great, so you own. Are you expanding or are you going to decrease? Oh, we're looking at expanding. Are you looking at adding on to where you are, or are you looking for a new facility? So it gives us an opportunity as a community to sit here and say, we're investing in the guys that are here. We're interested in how you are growing. How can we support you? And then lastly, you know, if we need to make sure we're having conversations about enhancing our community services. That could be a lot of different things for a lot of people, but for me, do we have the recreation facilities that we want as we continue to grow? And do we have walkable and bike pathways? When I say bikes for everybody that is moving.
Thank you. Staci, what do you think are the 3 most important issues that the town should address over the next election cycle?
So great question, very important. I have to have 4 because I am an educator at heart. I believe firmly in effective education for all students that come to our town, all students in our town, and making sure that our schools are effectively staffed and funded, and that our students and children are getting a top-notch quality education. I also believe in bringing in small businesses and making sure we have the resources that they need, and being able to allowing them to come here and flourish and be what the town needs and wants, ensuring that our infrastructure is set up, because when you put a city on a map and say that's the #1 town, well, I can guarantee, and I'm sure all of you know this, that that's going to mean an explosion of people moving into the town. So we need to make sure that we are ready for that on our roads, and how everything is functioning, all our facilities and resources that we have here in the town, and also effective housing for that population coming in. I know I am a renter, new coming in, a beautiful brand new development, which is wonderful. We need to make sure that we can have the space and ability for those developers to build what our town's going to need. We have the resources, schools, education, and be able to be ready for that explosion. But also we want to keep the charm of Holly Springs. I think this town is adorable. I love it so much coming here. I'm so glad that I found it, and I think that everyone that I've come across so far has been absolutely delightful. So I really want to keep that charm, but bring that balance for those newcomers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Annie, same question.
Thank you. So 3 most important issues. It's got to start with traffic. I mean, I've been talking to folks all over town, and we have a comprehensive transportation plan, the CTP. We already have it, and it's identified areas that need improvement, and that's great. I think that it's important to have that plan, have that vision of where we want to go. But I also think we need to see how we're going to get there, how we're moving in that direction. And that's an aspect that I don't think the town has a lot of visibility to. Also pursuing multimodal transportation. That's a shuttle. Wouldn't it be great to have a shuttle to the airport? Who's with me? But also that includes sidewalks, that includes bike paths, because if people are walking or biking or on a bus, that's fewer cars on the road. Secondly, housing. How do we meet the growing demand in Holly Springs? Notice I put transportation first because we need a way to get to our homes first. But meeting that growing demand, preserving and expanding homeowner access while avoiding displacement. I think that's a real issue in Wake County. We see it all over. I think that's a key opportunity for us in Holly Springs to make a difference. And lastly, water quality. it's an expensive process, right? And we're in a situation where we're sharing resources with other municipalities. We've got Harnett County, we've got City of Sanford that we're making new development plans. But PFAS are in our water. You know, we know the Harnett County Water Treatment Center, the GAC that filters out PFAS is down. So there are forever chemicals in our water. The EPA is looking at putting in new restrictions, and I think Holly Springs can really get ahead of that and put some safety measures in place now for a long-term plan for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, what do you think are the three most important issues that the town should address over the next election cycle?
Thanks. So I'll first say that the town actually has three things that they said that they're going to handle in 2023. It's traffic, safety, and water. I actually agree with those things. However, what I would say, I would kind of lump it a little bit. I would say infrastructure first. Infrastructure deals with traffic. It also deals with affordable housing, and I can't call it affordable housing. I like the way Travis called it. I was speaking yesterday. I was having coffee with someone, and there was an 83-year-old gentleman, and he was telling me the story that his wife had just passed 3 years ago, and he was just walking. He said, "Chris, I don't want to have to move, but the rents are raising so much that I don't know that I can afford to stay here." I didn't like that. I want to make sure that people can stay here. I want to make sure that people can live in this community because this is a great community. The third one is really the tax rate. If we can bring in the businesses to help level the tax rate to make it a 70-30. So when most of the folks, there are folks in here that have been here for many, many years. And when you've been here a while, the tax rate was usually, the business tax rate was like 5%. And I see some folks are nodding their heads like, yes, I remember that. And we were paying the bulk of that. Well, if the bond passes now with more businesses in, that tax rate is going to be lower because of the business tax rate. But the other thing that I really want to look at, and we talk about big business, is small business. We need to make incentives for small businesses to come here and to stay here because small business is the backbone of America. Small business is what makes us. It's I have a dream and I want to do this. I'm going to start a photography studio and I want a spot to live. And so I want that right here in Holly Springs. We want people to work where they live. And so those are the three that I would use.
Thank you. Brian, you'll be the last one. Same question.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think it comes down to the footprint, which is the people and the real estate. Right? So you have to prognosticate. We're looking at maybe 100,000 people in the next 48 years, which means you're talking about maybe a $200 million budget. So, I think we should have goals. I mean, the first thing is safety. If you don't have safety, you don't have a town. The police department can do a number of things. Number one, they can keep us safe. I'm looking at best practices of other towns, and I think we probably need more. We probably need to increase the salary. We probably need, we have a lot of great soft skills in the police. So I think they help with traffic, short-term, long-term. I think they help with infrastructure, and they help with safety. So I think that's a big goal. I think the second goal is consumption. What I mean by that is we need more income to come in. So you talk about business owners and how you bring them in. Let me tell you how you bring them in. Number one, we have a number of business owners who have brick and mortar. We have a lot of home businesses. I want the statistics on that because there's a lot of revenue coming from home business owners, and I think they would love more revenue to be able to build their business if they had help. In San Antonio, they have small incubators based on the idea of incentives for people who want to invest that will put money in escrow, and if you've lived here a certain amount of time and you have enough revenue, they will put money into these small businesses, home businesses, which we don't know a lot of. I also think when we pick industries going forward, you talk about small businesses, I think that we look at the type of industry that can bring the ancillary businesses that we want. They have higher paying jobs. The person that cuts hair by Harris Teeter that has to go to Garner because they can't live here, guess what? They make more money because of the clientele. And third, and I just want to say this about existing business owners, they have been here. They have built the tax base. And nobody talks about them. They're probably tired of hearing about new business owners. I think, and with the Chamber of Commerce, because they do this, we have to talk about business exit, transitions for them. They have potential value in their company. And when they sell it, we want them to stay here, and we want the liquidity to be here. That's how I would handle small businesses.
All right. Get those smiles back on. You guys are kind of scowling a little bit. So the question, this is a long one. I can relate to it. So listen carefully. I'll only repeat it 2 or 3 times. Other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more? And explain. So we'll start this
Tim,
round.
can I ask you to repeat that question one more time, please? I'm deaf in my left ear.
Other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel that Holly Springs is doing enough for the seniors and the arts in these areas, or should it do more? And explain. Let me do it one more time. I'll repeat it. You're first.
I thought you were going to repeat it. Excellent question, and a tricky one. I think we could do more. I think that, we have this lovely arts building, and the Parks and Rec bond looks at, replacing seats here, so you guys will all be more comfortable in the future should that pass. But we do have art programs. I would say also, I think informing the community is something that we could do a better job on. Events, Holly Springs Town events, like the National Night Out, and Canine Con. I'm not seeing as many people at those events, so I think we could do a better job sharing the word, communicating ideas, events for those kinds of things. What else? I know the Holly Springs Police Department has a program where they will look into seniors who are living alone. I don't know if you knew about this program. I just found out about it at the National Night Out, actually. They have a program where you put down your information and they check in with you regularly. And it's a great program, and they said they had 5 people on it. So I think a lot of the problems that we're having around these extended programs in general are how to inform the public so they can participate in them, so they can come to them, and build a stronger and more robust community. Thank you.
I'll repeat it again. Other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel that Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more? And explain. And Chris, you're up next.
Thank you. So my first answer is yes, we should, because we're not laggards. We are the leaders. People want to be Holly Springs. And one of the most interesting things for me about meeting people with this campaigning was I met a gentleman just the other night, and he was living in an apartment, and he said, we don't have enough things for seniors. And I looked at him and I said, but there are lots of things that happen at the Hunt Center in the mornings. He goes, athletic, do I look athletic? And we had a good little laugh. And I was like, okay, I get it. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, I'm an ex-IT person. He said, I would love to see a program in which, or a set of programs in which people could come in, and he said, he was meaning seniors, they'd come in, bring a laptop or get one furnished, and they could learn about the internet, and like what different things, parts of the internet. And I said, like the Progressive commercial? And we had a laugh. If you haven't seen the commercial, it's a great commercial. And so when he was saying that, I was thinking, I was like, that is true. One of the things that I've learned, and I didn't really realize this, I'll say this again later, and I want y'all to think about this. Your seat in the audience, where you're sitting, will change your view of the stage. So if you move somewhere else, you're going to change that view. So my seat in the audience was not of that senior. I always think about people with the small kids. I think about the family with teenagers or the young adults. But the senior community, there's a lot of seniors that have moved here to be near their grandkids. And that is a huge population. And we want them to feel included. And that's why part of my platform was a unified community. I really want to see folks be able to have very great opportunities to do things and enjoy life. So for me, I think we do some very good things, but I think we can also do even more as we grow.
Thank you. Other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more? Jack?
Well, I always think there's room for improvement. When we look at things, we can grow in all kinds of ways. When we talk about for seniors, I mentioned earlier an interest in intra-town transit. You can't actually participate in any of these programs if you can't get to them. And there comes a point in time where folks give up driving, and how do you get to any of these programs to participate in? And if you look at some of our other municipalities, Apex has Go Apex, we've got Go Morrisville. Right now we have Go Nowhere. And so if we can take some of these areas with 55 and over communities and renters and connect people to major hubs across our town, that would be a great opportunity. Also, when I think about the arts programs, we have all kinds of great things happening here at the Cultural Center. My family has come to some of the community theater performances, Christmas concerts. And so I love those programs. I would love to see more of them. I'm also hoping to see some improvement on our infrastructure for our Parks and Rec programs for people to be able to participate in. I hear from a lot of parents that they try and go online to register for things, and the system gets overwhelmed, and they call in and they're told, oh, just come in person to register. And if you have 3 kids and 4 dogs and all the things that our family deals with, that gets really hard to do. It's also an accessibility issue. And so I'd like to see some improvements in that area. Ultimately, too, we make a lot of assumptions about what people want. Ask. If we ask, we'll find out the answer.
Oops. Brian, would you like me to repeat the question first, or?
Sure.
Okay. Other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel that Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more? Explain.
Well, you know, it is an interesting question. I think this is a really good example of best practices. It probably doesn't take a lot to start looking, not so much really what the programs are, although that's important, but really how they're going about it, because it's such a tactical thing. And it's true, there's a lot of seniors coming because they want to be here with their grandchildren. How many homes have I been to already where they're all together or they're next door within a neighborhood? Also, though, there are a lot of seniors that don't have families and they're here, and that is a concern. And when I visited them and talked to them, you know, they're wonderful people, have so much wisdom, and I think probably transportation, even to the things we have right now, and just impromptu get-togethers and establishments, or anything that can connect folks. And, you know, even at a tactical level, you think about, I've had folks mention they can't get across the street if they need to go to the hospital, there's not walkways. Things that are very fixable, but, you know, you just kind of maybe take your eye off the ball. There's so many things going on. I think the first thing is really to go into a lot of the, you know, the apartment complexes with folks that don't have families here and talk to them. And boy, all the ideation will just come around. They have lots of ideas about, you know, this is great and this is great, but how about just get me here? Or let's just get a couple of folks together, because for them, it's the life experience, right? What kind of experiences they've had. They had a great life. They have so much to share, so much they want to share with other people. And, you know, wow, wouldn't it be great if they had opportunities to talk with children and share all the wisdom that they have? They're out there. I mean, I didn't want to leave on a couple of occasions. It's such great conversations, but I would start there. I would go into some of the, senior apartment complexes and talk to them and say, you know, what are the first 3 things that you want to do after the things that you need? Like, you need to have that sidewalk put somewhere. Maybe we need better transportation, and there's ways to do that, shuttles and that type of thing. But that's where I would start, because no, they need a better experience for sure.
Scoot, other municipalities around our area are emphasizing extended programs or expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more? Explain.
I think this is an area for opportunity for us as a community. This is one of those conversations where we can help build some bridges and empower communities if we're having right conversations with the right people. Can we go to some other places and ask them about their best practices and see if those are things we can implement here in Holly Springs? Beyond that, I think some things we can do initially, do we have walkable pathways for everybody to enjoy? If my grandmother comes, she wants to walk with her grandchildren. Is she going to be able to do that from my subdivision to wherever that community gathering place is that everybody wants to be a part of? Do we have the facilities in place, or do we have future conversations about facilities that we can put in place that would be gathering places for everybody? So again, when grandma comes, she wants the kids to come with them. Grandkids aren't riding the bicycles from Tour de France. Grandkids are riding the bicycle from Walmart with training wheels. Do we have walkable and bike pathways to get them from our subdivision to the community gathering places where everybody's at, so we can have conversations about how we all can move Holly Springs forward?
Staci, other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more?
A question that touches me personally. So in relocating here to Holly Springs, I actually have brought my mom, who is a retired senior. So programs that affect seniors definitely directly affect me. And even before I took care of my mom, who has a hard time walking now due to her diabetes, and she has neuropathy in her legs. And unfortunately, there were issues where I had to take her to the emergency room 3 times in the past couple months. And I don't say that to embarrass or insult her, but being someone who is caring for someone can be very difficult. So I would love to see ways for my mom to be able to connect with the community more, and perhaps with senior busing, some other types of senior classes, programs, chances for her to get out, because she's definitely very capable and someone who loves to connect with the community. So I know that she would love that, and being able to have those resources, because being the caretaker is can be very stressful, very time consuming, but I love my mom, and I would do anything for my mom, because I know my mom would do anything for me, and just like I helped take care of my grandparents before they passed as well. And as far as arts programs, so I would love to see Holly Springs do more. And as far as arts programs, I know I currently hold an online drawing class as part of a meetup group, and I know how much people enjoy it. It's very relaxing, and it helps with mental health and gives people the chance to think about different things. So I would love to see expanded art programs here in the community for Holly Springs. Thank you.
Travis, other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more?
That's a great question. First of all, we can't assume what everybody wants without hearing from the community first, and I think that's important to invite people to town council to throw ideas out. And this issue can't even be privatized on a certain level to promote events and even promote organizations to build 55 and up communities that focus on events and social gatherings for the elderly. And again, this is something that that we should hear from the community about. I believe we can do more, but based on our demographics, 1/3 of our community is under the age of 18. So I'm not seeing a huge influx of retirees to Holly Springs. I think the town is doing a great job. Of course, there are some things that we can add to and increase and promote events for these folks to do, to get to, and allowing them to get there to the events is important. But the town is doing great, but based on demographics, this is a very young town. And so, sure, there's opportunity for improvement, but it's also a influx of very young families. So it's a tricky situation, but it can be privatized, I believe, and we can promote more privatization of 55 and up activities, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Danielle, other municipalities around our area are emphasizing expanded programs and resources for seniors and for the arts. Do you feel Holly Springs is doing enough in these areas, or should it do more?
I think Holly Springs can always do more in many areas, not to say that it's not doing well. You know, I think of a new 55 plus development that's just been approved to go in, and how we, when considering a diversity and housing stock, how we can consider more of those, more ways for the 55 plus community to be able to age in place and live in Holly Springs, to move here to be with grandchildren, for the young families that are here. And I heard also about walkability and connectivity. I think those things are important for an active community at all ages, and to be able to live in these communities 55 plus in or whatever housing options they may choose, to be able to visit our downtown. You know, we've had this recent study done on the downtown village district and what the community is looking for there, and art is actually one of them as well. So for all of our communities to be able to get to downtown through walking, biking, lots of different ways, frequent our small businesses, and eat at our great restaurants, to do all of these things, to be a part of the community regardless of age. And then, bringing art to that, I think, there's a lot of ways that's, somewhat separate. The programming for both the 55 plus and art is something that I believe can be expanded with, with the bond, with new facilities and parks and rec. So there's a lot of ways that all of these come together between our destination downtown, getting people in the community together in these areas that they want to be involved in the town, and regardless of age. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the next question. Brian, you will be the first to answer this question. The question is, do you feel that the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance, or should it establish its own? I'll repeat that one more time. Do you feel that the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance, or should it establish its own?
I think I mentioned earlier in my opening, I grew up 1972. It was a true melting pot. Every ethnicity, every nationality, every socioeconomic class, every race was where I grew up. And opportunity was the order of the day. So when we talk about equal opportunity, we're given an opportunity through the city, the resources they have, through mentors, 2 parents, 1 parent, no parents, to try to do the best you can. But in the end, it always comes down to what you earn and that personal accountability. And I can tell you, not a day goes by in my life that I'm not proud of myself with all my shortcomings that I didn't earn based on every little opportunity I can. So the most important thing in any municipality is remember what it's responsible for, right? It's responsible for safety. If you don't have safety, you don't have a town. It's responsible for being a fiscal steward of the money, right? It's responsible for trying to create as many amenities as possible, right? It has to do these things. Above and beyond that, we have to also protect the revenues that we bring in. What's the point of bringing in new business owners or the ideas that I mentioned? How about the existing business owners, the folks that would like an exit strategy, if you're dry cleaners, and maybe in 5 years you could sell that business for $500,000, and the chamber can help with that. That's the most important thing. Those are the things that the town is responsible for. And that's all that matters. Everything else we're willing to work with people on, but if you don't think about personal accountability like I did when I grew up, then I think you get distracted. And that's my thoughts on the subject.
Thank you. Scoop, do you feel the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance, or should it establish its own?
Chris, can you say that one more time, please?
Absolutely. Do you feel the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance, or should it establish its own?
Say that last part, Chris. I'm sorry.
No worries. Do you feel the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance, or should it establish its own?
You know, that's a question that everybody in the community needs to be asking themselves, and that they need to be asking their neighbors and their family members. My background is YMCA, ladies and gentlemen, and if you know anything about the Y and you spend any time at the Y, our philosophy is we are inclusive of everybody where they are in their life at that time. I think we need to look at that question. I think we need to have conversations with everybody involved. I think it's an opportunity for us to grow as a community. I think it's an opportunity for us to sit down and listen to the different pockets within our community and say what's important to you and how can we help represent you at Town Hall. Again, it's one of those questions that everybody has to have at the dinner table with their family, with their neighbors, and what do you want to see in Holly Springs, and how do you want to be approached, and how do you want to be accepted? So again, for me, it's one of those conversations that's going to have a whole lot of people in the room to have the right conversation and to say, can I sit back for just a minute and listen to what somebody is saying and then put my own thoughts and my own life experience to the side and say, you know what, I can understand where you're coming from. Let me do a little more homework, a little more research, so we can come back together and have a deeper dive into this conversation, because it will impact everybody in our community. But I think it's important that we have those conversations.
Thank you. Danielle, do you feel the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance, or should it establish its own?
I think it's important to recognize and be proud of Holly Springs for being a diverse and inclusive community. It's important that we take steps to be inclusive in any ways that we can. I think to directly answer the question, I think that perhaps taking a direction of our own in those efforts may be the best case. And I say that in thinking of the small businesses in our community and the burden that different types of, some of the red tape and ordinances go on to, running a business may be affected by. So in this particular case, we've seen the Wake County ordinance not necessarily have a super effective bearing on the outcomes of what's been brought to the cases there. So I think that certainly there are always ways to move forward in being inclusive, in promoting diversity in our community, and I think that there are ways that we can come together as a council and figure out what those are, and that taking our own approach and coming up with what works best for the entire community, the community as a whole, would be the best case scenario.
Thank you. Staci, Do you feel the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County non-discrimination ordinance, or should it establish its own?
So first of all, I think it's a real kick that the two New Jersey people are sitting right next to each other, not for nothing. So I actually grew up about a half hour south of where Brian mentioned. He grew up in Jersey City. I grew up mostly in Middlesex County, about a half hour south of there. And where I grew up was a very diverse place. It was also a melting pot. I can remember my grandmother saying that she was told that it was going to be like a little New York City there, which it has become, and you have every walk of life there. Everyone is there from everywhere around the country, and around the world. And I grew up believing that everyone is the same. My mom always taught me you treat everybody the same. Everyone is equal no matter where they're from. And so I always look to others for knowledge and culture, and to see different perspectives and how different people look at different things from different locations. And if that requires for Holly Springs to be part of the non-discrimination ordinance, then that's fine. I believe that we are all equal. We are all together in the mission to make Holly Springs a great place. And so bringing in people from everywhere and always treating everyone the same, fairly, always looking to everyone for their talents and skills and abilities is what's most important to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Annie, same question.
Thank you. So I think that Holly Springs, by being one of 3 municipalities in Wake County that did not sign the non-discrimination ordinance, I think that's sending a message that we don't intend to send. Everyone's welcome in Holly Springs. As a homeowner and resident of Holly Springs, I was disappointed by the way this was handled. I didn't see town council having open and honest discourse about the issues they found with the non-discrimination ordinance. I heard that there were issues with local businesses, but on further examination, I find that the Chamber of Commerce was not consulted about the non-discrimination ordinance, which seems like something they should have done. If there are business concerns, who better to talk to than the Chamber of Commerce with representation from businesses small and large? I think this issue deserves an open dialogue with all members of our community. I think it's unfair to discuss it behind closed doors. And so whether that means writing our own or signing the Wake County, I believe it's something that the council owes the people of Holly Springs.
Thank you. Chris, do you feel the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County non-discrimination ordinance, or should it establish its own?
Your view of the stage depends on your seat in the audience. It's just that simple. And so for me, I actually did think that we should have signed it. But when we didn't, I really wanted to see us sign something. So if elected, what I would love to see is us work together to sign something that makes for the safety and equality for all people. And there are lots of very good points about this ordinance. And so this is one of those times in which, for me, I know that we can work together. We need to have the conversations. We need to simply listen to each other. And what I witnessed was a lot of talking but we need to talk together and figure this out. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to feel safe. Everybody wants to go downtown or walk around or go wherever you want in this town and feel safe. As of March of 2023, the county expected lots of requests. There were 23. Only 5 went through. So what that says to me was that, I think it was a lot of information out there. We should have signed it. We didn't, and that's okay. But we can always work together to sign our own. And I think that's what we should have done. Thanks.
Thank you. Jack, same question.
I don't think how I feel about the non-discrimination ordinance is a secret to anyone. I absolutely think that we should be signing on to the NDO. The NDO protects such a wide swath of individuals for religious belief, non-religious belief, race, gender, natural hairstyle, pregnancy, veterans, and this is for all people to be able to receive basic services in our town without being discriminated against. I'm not sure why that should ever be an issue for us to sign on to. I'm gonna be vulnerable for a moment. Recently, a political party put out an email that was to encourage folks to attend an event for 3 of the candidates on this stage. And in the email, it claimed that if Democrats or a non-binary person like myself were to be elected, that our police would only be hired based on race and sexuality, and they would be soft on crime, and that there would be pedophilia in our town, and a number of things that were disgusting, frankly. And that event was at a small business owner's home. And so how am I to believe that I can go into that business and expect not to be discriminated against if that is how people are willing to put into writing that they feel about a person like me? And so I think it is absolutely the natural conclusion that we need a non-discrimination ordinance in order to make sure that people are receiving fair and equal services in our town.
Thank you. Travis, do you feel the town of Holly Springs should join the Wake County non-discrimination ordinance, or should it establish its own?
I truly believe that no government ordinance will ever prevent someone from being a jerk. It will never prevent somebody from being a bigot or a racist. They don't work. It's like setting an ordinance for a curfew because bad things happen past midnight. It's a terrible idea. They don't work. You can't force someone to be nice. You can't force someone to accept someone. And I believe the free market will take care of this. If you don't like a business because they're bigoted, then they're probably going to go out of business. But you got to let the community determine that. And I don't believe another government agency overstepping their boundaries to oversee another government agency is the solution. So if there's going to be a ordinance of some kind that's not going to work, it doesn't work anywhere else, then I believe it should be done in-house, in Holly Springs, and it should be conducted and written by the community and not let Wake County determine what people can and cannot do, because I saw what Wake County does with the mandates and all that stuff. It's a terrible idea to let the county determine what a city does. And so for that reason, I believe it should be done in-house. I believe something should be done, but it should be done in-house, locally, because this is Holly Springs. Yes, we're in Wake County. And I'm a principled person. I believe in liberty and freedom for all. I live by the non-aggression principle. Don't hurt people. Don't take their stuff. Don't commit fraud or force or theft or coercion. It's not okay. I'm the biggest person on equality, but I do not believe government mandates from another agency is the solution. We should do it in-house. Thank you.
One of our candidates is having a hearing problem in hearing things. Would you other candidates be seriously offended if I allowed his wife to text him the question?
That's fine.
I just wanted to be sure. I didn't want y'all to think anything was kind of going under the table. So the question is, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses? How can the town of Holly Springs better support small business? Chris.
First and foremost, listen. I think that we have to listen to the small business owners. And secondarily, I actually think that I have to start here and say our town staff is absolutely phenomenal. And if you've never worked with the town staff of Holly Springs, they are really good to work with. Give them the resources so that they can make things work for the small businesses. And also, one of the things that we can do also, we don't have to be so rigid all the time. So we have to have policies. We have to have ordinances. We have to have, rules. However, we need to make sure that we're listening to small businesses. I was talking to a small business owner just yesterday. I frequent there a lot, and he was saying, Chris, he says, I don't know that I can stay. And I was like, wait a minute, why? And he was having a conversation. We were having a conversation about it. And he said, there are lots of little things. And he said, and I don't think it's fair. He said, some of these things, and I won't go into what it was, but he's like, some of the things about the town are not fair and other businesses are treated differently. So we have to be fair, we have to listen, and we have to we have to actually look at the small business. We look at it from a global macro level. Let's boil it down to a micro level and look at the micro level of small businesses and make sure that small businesses have a say. They can stay here because they are the backbone of this community. Thanks.
Scoop, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses?
Thank you for that, Tim, and everybody, I appreciate your understanding with that. I guess what we would have to do first is, what's the definition of support? Ladies and gentlemen, Holly Springs Economic Development Department does a fantastic job with bringing large industries into Holly Springs, which helps brings our tax dollars up, which helps bring residents into our community, and has employees up to 200, 300, 400, 700 that are potential customers for our small businesses in town. I think as we continue to have smart and balanced growth with both our residential side and our large business side, those areas that the town are supporting that in will bring more residents and more potential customers to the town of Holly Springs. So I guess your definition of support varies probably from everybody in this room. I did live in a community at one time that the local municipality said, hey, let's take a look at possible tax break at the end of the year for a new business that established themselves that year, and let's see what they did throughout the year. And there was tax breaks given based off a formula that the municipality had instilled. Now, that sounds great in theory until how all your larger businesses or all your businesses that have been here forever, it's like when you open up your bank account and the guy next to you he gets a new toaster. I've been banking here for years, I get nothing. I think the conversation needs to be centered around what is support, what are you needing from us as a municipality, and how can we help you in those areas? Again, that retention and expansion program is a great example. Somebody said they're renting, but they want to own. We were able to find locations for them to purchase that they can move their business into.
Brian, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses?
Well, let me talk just for a second about the strategic planning. I think if you guys know where everyone knows where Thanks Latte is, I consider that kind of a cute area because you go there and they have a spa. I actually brought my wife there a few weeks ago. She's very happy about it. Brought her there to the spa, but I saw some other things. They had some shops, and so I think when you're looking at the footprint, you can start to think of ways where you can put small businesses where we know where the population is going to bring. And I talked about this before. So in the end, businesses want to make money, right? They want to make money, whether they're treated fairly or not. They want to make money. That's what it's about. So we have to bring the types of small businesses that we know are ancillary to the big business that we bring. Then we can tell. It doesn't matter. It could be a construction company. It could be an elevator company. It doesn't really matter. We get to choose. So it's not just about the money that the people spend from the big companies, which is true, but we get to choose the small companies, right? And those small companies bring the higher paying jobs, and everybody makes more money because we want the people to work here, our workforce, we want them to live here. And they're so close. And when you see somebody that lives in Garner and comes an hour and a half because they want to work here, they're so close to having a few more people come in with more wages and they get to live here. So now everybody's income is up. I also think we do have to give incentives to people. I see money every day coming in from places that they want to give to small businesses. I mean, I could tell you stories, but I had a small business that had made ingredients to protein drinks, and we were able to move that client. They sold it for $100 million, but it was all about an exit strategy. I'd like to work with the chamber and narrow down every company that has immediate value where there could be an exit strategy for them with the existing businesses. If you know that, then you know what their value is. If you know what the value is, then you give them options. If you don't have options, you have choices. So new businesses, large industries for those businesses, and existing businesses, try to help them as well.
Annie, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses?
Well, I would argue that those three most important issues we've identified in Holly Springs in an earlier question has a lot to do with bringing business to Holly Springs and supporting local businesses, right? Without a good transportation plan, without walkability, shuttles, people can't get to their work, they can't get home, housing, where will they live, and water quality, what will they drink, right? But also, there were lots of good points here. I think engaging with businesses is really important on a town level. What are the needs? How are we failing, and how can we work together? And I think collaboration is key. I was at a local spot the other day, and they had partnered with an adjacent restaurant to provide food and drink at the same place without having to bring in the complexity of adding a kitchen and staffing. How businesses help each other, and how the town can facilitate bringing those businesses together. Thank you.
Jack, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses?
So I think there are a number of things we can do. I've been in conversation for some time with counselors from other area municipalities, and talking with them, a lot of what I hear is that success and growth in your town is a double-edged sword. And oftentimes we start to grow and our rents rise, and our small businesses that are the heart of the town, that are our local business owners, have to close their businesses because they can't afford rent on Main Street anymore. Just recently, we lost Mason Jar, and that was in a period of rent renewal for a 10-year contract. And in that space now, it's really only a large corporation that can afford to pay that rent. And so we have to look at, with our responsible growth, how are we growing in a balanced way that brings in larger businesses to help our tax base, but also that we're being mindful to protect the longevity of our small businesses in the area. I think with all of those development decisions too, you are making decisions about whether or not the town continues to be the type of desirable place that people want to start their business. And as I've said before with some of these other questions, you find out how to help the business community by asking the business community. And that's where the town can continue to lean into even more the relationship that they have with the Chamber of Commerce. They have the pulse of the business community in so many ways. And so utilizing them as a source of information. And two, in talking to business owners myself, I found a lot of them had not been consulted about the NDO and are telling me that they absolutely want it. So we're missing conversations.
Thank you. Staci, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses?
Well, to extend what Jack was starting to say, to me, communication is everything. So when we say, well, how do we support them? How do we define that? Well, I'll tell you how you find out and define it. You go and you talk to the business owners, in whether it's going to their business, finding ways to communicate with them, talking to them, finding out what their pain points are, what is it that what resources they may need from the town. We know expenses are definitely on everyone's list as a number one issue for so many. And I think, if I'm on the town council, I am going and I am communicating with all of those businesses, bringing in the chamber, bringing in the rest of the council members, and getting to know what's going on. We can do this, direct communication. We can have events bringing in those small business owners for events where they can express themselves to us and let us know what's going on, what's happening in their businesses, and how can we support them? How can we continue to grow and expand? How can we make these problems better? How can we help with the costs? What programs, anything that needs to be put in place, and just continuing that dialogue, because I really believe that it's in listening that we can really get to what's going on, how can we fix it, looking for the commonalities, and coming to viable conclusions and solutions for that. Thank you.
Danielle, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses?
I think a few people have hit the nail on the head. Listening to small businesses, listening to what it is small businesses need to thrive in this community, what it is their struggles are, and taking those to heart and doing what we can as a council to respond to that. We can maintain a close and collaborative relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. There are programs in place. For grants for small business. We can continue to provide those. A wonderful program, Launch Holly Springs, does so much to get small businesses off the ground and really support small business. We need to create that favorable environment for small business. Part of that is through bringing in developments that suit small businesses, in the best ways, in some of those pockets that Brian mentioned, where Thanks a Latte is, where our downtown village district, where our residents want a boutique experience, and where small business want to exist, where, as I've mentioned, where we create that connectivity, where it's walkable and brings foot traffic to those small business. As our economic development continues in Holly Springs on a larger level, this impacts the smaller businesses as well, and brings in residents who want to shop small business, who want to be in those livable parts of town, those walkable parts of town that really truly support the small business community. The small business community is, truly the backbone of Holly Springs. It brings in so many ways, but the character that it brings. Residents here really support their favorite small businesses. They're proud of them, and all that we can do to support them is what's best for the community.
Travis, how can the town of Holly Springs better support small businesses?
Again, small businesses is the backbone of every community, and I believe continuing working with the Chamber of Commerce is very important. They're in the trenches with the businesses and talking with them and know what they need, but also not interfering with the free market. One thing Brian said that I'm going to disagree with is picking and choosing winners and losers and who comes here. I don't believe that should be the answer. Anybody that wants to set up shop here should be able to, by keeping business taxes low wherever we possibly can as a town. But starting to picking winners and losers is not the idea. So that's up to a certain small group of people's perspective of what they will allow in the town. So allowing the free market to thrive means get out of the way. Let businesses do what they do and create tax incentives and tax environments to allow them to stay here, and also work with developers to what Danielle was saying, make it walkable, make a lot foot traffic areas so that it's a destination point. So downtown becomes a destination where we don't have to go to Cary and Apex and Raleigh to do our shopping and have our fun, we can do it right here on a Saturday instead of traveling around, which also cuts down on traffic. So picking on winners and losers is a terrible idea. We can't do that. We have to allow any business with what the community wants to be able to set up shop, and so allowing the free market to do what it does is the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Annie, you will be first to answer the next question. The question is, are you in favor of continuing the growth Holly Springs has encountered in terms of population, infrastructure, and things of that nature? Or do you prefer it to slow down? Please explain. I'll repeat that one more time. Are you in favor of continuing the growth Holly Springs has encountered in terms of things like population and infrastructure? Or do you prefer to slow it down? Please explain.
Thank you. I'm just checking my cards real quick. And I apologize for checking my phone. My kids are home, and that mom instinct runs hard. As for growth, that's a great question. Growth, part of that growth was my family and myself. Holly Springs being a great, safe place to live. It brought us here. It's bringing businesses in. As those businesses open up, they're going to have employees who move here, as well. So we are growing. The hesitation I have, and I think growth is good. The hesitation I have is how do we preserve the identity of Holly Springs and having the proper infrastructure in place, right? If we can't, we've all sat in traffic. Maybe not on the way here, but certainly this week. We've all sat in the traffic here, and it's wretched, and it's in our town. It's not leaving the town. It's inside the town, and taking steps to make sure that we have a plan for that, especially since traffic improvements take such a long time to do. So I am in favor of growth, but I would want to moderate it with preserving the spirit of Holly Springs, as well as making sure we have the right infrastructure in place. We've done a lot of clean cutting lately. We've seen it. It's an issue. I don't know if you guys read the Wake County Tree Canopy report, but we need to be more thoughtful as we expand. Make sure we're preserving the spirit of the town that brought many of us here.
Thank you. Travis, are you in favor of continuing the growth Holly Springs has encountered in terms of things like population and infrastructure? Or do you prefer to slow it down? Please explain.
No, I think growth is good. I don't believe artificially speeding a community up or slowing it down is the answer. People are coming here because it's a wonderful place to live. And we do need to be mindful of if we do cut down trees, that we're replanting the right types of trees that help with erosion, help with even odors, help with even the beauty of the town. And so the growth is a good thing, and we can continue on this path in a smart way and allow developers to help us. We need to talk with the architects and the developers and have them guide us into new creative ways to build communities so that we can get the supply and demand of housing and businesses under control and in balance, so that it becomes even more of a great destination point. Because I truly don't believe it's going to stop. We're on a really fast pace of growth. It's not going to stop. Traffic is not going to stop. So the quicker we can get these roads fixed, and I know a lot of it's a DOT issue, the 540 and a lot of the major roads are DOT issues. Some of it are state roads that we can work with the state on. But at the same time, I'm pro-growth. I think this is a great area to grow. There's still some land here, but we can't let Wake County determine how we grow. We have to grow Holly Springs way. We have to grow our way and keep it unique. We're not Cary, we're not Apex, we're not Raleigh, we're not Fuquay. We're Holly Springs, and so preserving what's great about this community is so important to me. It's why I moved here. So let's preserve what we have. So thank you.
Thank you. Scoop, are you in favor of continuing the growth Holly Springs has encountered in terms of things like population and infrastructure, or do you prefer to slow it down? Please explain.
For those of us who have lived here for more than 20 years, for those of us who have had conversations with those who lived here more than 30 plus years, we all remember what happened in Cary when they made a decision to slow things down. You want to talk about hurting your small business community? Start slowing things down. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not what I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of smart, sustainable growth to help the town of Holly Springs move that tax base to a 70% business, 30% residential, that we can spread that out over multiple years and continue to finance our future growth as we move forward. It's also going to involve us as leaders having the right conversation with all parties involved. We need to take a look at what people do we need to have conversation with, what people can we partner with, and how is that process going to help us move the future of Holly Springs, where our residents are telling us that's where they want us to go.
Thank you. Chris, same question.
Thanks. Holly Springs has a long-term growth plan, and it is pretty comprehensive, and it's very good. We're expected to hit 65,000 people by 2030. One of the things that happened in the last Unified Development Ordinance when it was rewritten was instead of clear-cutting, developments had to preserve at least 20% of trees. I'm a fan of 30%. I would love to see that. I don't know that it could happen, but I would definitely support that. So when you ask the question about growth, I think growth is something that we should manage. If we manage that growth and we do it responsibly, we can do that. But the one thing that's also, I think, is kind of missing is, and it's one of my pillars, you want to unify we want to unify Holly Springs of old and Holly Springs of new. A lot of people don't understand the history of Holly Springs. They don't understand what has happened here. They don't understand the people that have lived here and the people that have been here. And I think that is super important. So one of the things I would love to see, I would really, really love to see, is something historical talking about the history and the growth of Holly Springs. Because I firmly believe that you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And so for me, that's super important. So yes, we should grow, and we should grow responsibly. I do think that we have done a good job with it. We talk about traffic, and I have a few minutes here. We'll talk about a few seconds. We talk about traffic. Here's the issue. Change management is one of my certifications, something that I do with my leaders all the time. You have where you are today, you have where you know you want to be in the future, and everything in the middle is that change. And so how do we responsibly handle that in the middle? And that is something that we can definitely do, and we can do it better. And we can do that, and we can do it effectively, and make this town grow and make it a place for everybody. So I would like the growth.
Thank you. Danielle, are you in favor of continuing the growth Holly Springs has encountered in terms of things like population and infrastructure, or do you prefer to slow it down? Please explain.
I am pro-strategic and responsible growth. There are very few ways that I would be in favor of that you could slow down the market. There's no real way to control what the market is. We can control when it comes to housing. We can control supply in some ways. We can, work with developers and work with in our plan to have certain densities so that the growth may not be as immediate, but happens nonetheless. So there are ways to work within that, but I am pro-growth. I think that for the good of our businesses, in the interest of providing the best quality of life for our residents, I was talking to somebody the other day about the boutique feel that we want in downtown and what the types of businesses we don't want there. we want Target. We want the convenience of being able to go to a larger business, right in our backyard. I love the idea of not having to leave Holly Springs unless I need to get to an international airport. I think having all of those conveniences here happen as part of growth. I think within our economic development, within bringing in small businesses, we are providing what our residents need now, and that will in turn continue to provide what we need as we diversify that tax base, hit that 70-30, so that our infrastructure is supported as well. Oh, is that mine? No, that's all right. That's a
Brian, same question.
Well, it's interesting because obviously the longer people have lived here, the more context they have, and having only been here 3 years, there's a lot to learn. The stories that people tell about what the town looked like many years ago, and the rapidity, how fast things have moved is incredible. Just so if you think about that, just the UDO has to have been put together so well and adjusted so many times in a good way. I think the growth probably has been managed well. I do think that there is a tipping point here, because at least at a very tactical level, you listen to people and there's things that they don't like or things that they see that they don't want. And some of it's transparency. They don't know what's going on with the changes with traffic. But I do think some of the points have been made about how can we preserve, and these are questions I don't know the answer to, but how can we put some things in place that say, you know what, it's going to feel like the town subdivisions, the way things are zoned. The people are going to come, so I think we just have to assume that we're going to bring in, people that want to be here, they're excited to be here. I mean, it's everything. I mean, even, part of it is just listening to the people and saying, this might happen or this might happen. If I come in January 2024, the strategic planning's already been done, right, up to a certain point. I can only think about anything as legacy planning. How do we look at this going forward? And so you accumulate as much information as you can, and you make the best decision that you can make going forward, and you have your checklist, the checklist of things that you kind of can't control, the people coming in, and then you have the checklist of things that, geez, can we give those things? What do we have enough of? What don't we have enough of? What is the end game? If we have any control, where do we really want to be? What do we want to look like? Or do we have the best practices in place in every area? So it takes a lot of thought. It's no easy task, but I still think it begins with talking to people, and people have been here for a long time. And if you listen really closely, a lot of the ideas are there. But I would also just say, as a resident, it looks like a lot of this has been, to this point, pretty well thought out.
Thank you, Jack. Are you in favor of continuing the growth Holly Springs has encountered in terms of things such as population and infrastructure, or do you prefer to slow it down? Please explain.
I'm in favor of growing smart. Somebody mentioned before that Cary tried to pause their growth. We can't be so myopic about our own town to not recognize that all of our decisions actually impact areas around us too. And when Cary did that pause, that's part of when Holly Springs exploded in our own growth. So it's going to go somewhere. We have to grow smart. Some numbers right now. Our median home price is $600,000. I hear a lot of folks talking about supporting our police department. We have more than 70 officers, and very few of them live within the municipality because they can't afford to. We've seen in this last year more than 50% increase in need at the Holly Springs food cupboard. We have to make sure that we are growing in ways that are not causing displacement. We don't want that to be the legacy of Holly Springs. We want to grow in ways that ensure that people can stay here, that they are safe not only from violent crime, but that they have housing security, they have food security, they have psychological safety. And we also had the mention of, the tree canopy. We have 1,300 acres in that tree canopy that's been lost since 2010. I'm fully with Chris on we need to up that clear cutting number to 30% in the UDO. Ultimately, we need to move away from where we're headed, which is being a gated community without a gate.
Staci, same question.
Thank you. I am definitely someone who is passionate about seeing successful growth. Coming from central New Jersey and thinking of, and as everyone was speaking and you know, as I was reflecting on this question, it brings me back to the remembrance that New Jersey, where I come from, used to be farmland. It is not farmland now in central New Jersey. It looks kind of like little New York City. There's no land. It's very much overgrown. It's very unaffordable. Hence, one of the reasons that has brought me down here. The cost of living definitely squeezed me out. Trying to get to jobs, the traffic, the chaos. It is very, very bustling. So what I would say for Holly Springs is yes, growing because we have the space here. New Jersey didn't. Having the space and thinking forward, what does that look like? What does that look like when you bring all of these people in, or when all these people are moving to this area? What does it look like when you have all of these businesses? What does that mean for the traffic, the road, the housing? Which way do things have to go? It's like, I know our population's expected to grow to 60 some odd thousand in less than 10 years, but let's think, what is it going to look like when it gets to 100,000? What would it look like? Like really kind of go beyond those projections and think of what the town needs as far as infrastructure to make that work successfully. Thank you.
Last question. Fast. Scoops up. Scoop, this question's coming to you. And what he's reading is, what initiatives are most important to you? Scoop? Hands up when you see it.
For me, it's going to be how we address the growing pains we have. Transportation is always thrown out there like it can be fixed tomorrow. Transportation is like turning that cruise ship. It's going to take a lot of people working together to create a plan, to finance that plan so we can fix that particular issue. Initiatives for me will be, are we planning for the future? You know, it's great for us to sit here and say, hey, this is what I want Holly Springs to look like in 10 years. Okay, that's great. We can envision that. But the hard part for leaders, and my experience has helped with this, what action steps are taking place right now to get us there? If you want your kids to be straight A students, what action steps do you take? Take that Xbox away from them. They're studying, they're taking notes, they're going to tutoring class, they're in study sessions, they're asking questions in class, they're visiting teachers afterward. So we can envision where we want to be. The initiatives are we taking the action steps right now to get us there? Are we financing future growth? Are we financing community enhancements that will bring, or that will make Holly Springs a more attractive place for businesses, our current residents, and our future residents?
Annie, what initiatives are most important to you?
You're going to start. Yeah. So I've talked a lot about what issues are most important to Holly Springs. So in this segment, I'd like to talk about what's most important to me as it's local to me, right? I live in an older neighborhood. Street trees. Street trees are a big problem in our neighborhood. The wrong kind were planted. all together. So we have disease-ridden street trees. We have trees, giant oak trees that are busting up the sidewalk and the driveways in our community. I mean, there are guys out there repairing it today. And it's a problem, and the onus, as these trees have gotten huge, is all on the homeowner. Now we have homeowners who can't grow grass in their yards. Like, how do we solve that problem for them when we've planted these giant street trees? So I would like to see some direction with that, not just for the new neighborhoods, but for the established neighborhoods where there are existing problems. How are we going to fix those for our community? Another issue that's local to me is neighborhood connectivity, right? My house is the same distance to the high school as my house as a high schooler myself was in Texas. It's the same distance for my kids. But there's no way for them to safely get there. There are no sidewalks. There are no trails. There are a series of neighborhoods that are just neighborhoods on the main road, and that's it. And there's no way to get from one neighborhood to the next. We're all forced on the same set of roads. And when they closed Pierce Olive for months and months and months, I mean, it was a real burden. I calculated the time lost for me personally, and it was astronomical. So these are some of the issues that are local to me, and I think I'd like to see a plan from Holly Springs on how we're going to handle those.
Danielle, what initiatives are most important to you?
You know, when I think of what's most important to me personally, it's going to come back to what promotes the best future, the best opportunities for my children, which is the best opportunities for the children in this community. And while there are many, you know, and I'm sitting here looking at a list of our five, the 5 elements of our strategic plan, and all of them are so important, and it's hard for me to pick one over another, but I go back to every time, without being assured of our safety and the safety of our families, not much else matters. So I think, initiatives that we can take to promote the resources that our police and that our fire need to maintain the safety of this town, to make sure that we all feel secure now and in the future. That's where the rest of it's going to come from. If we have the security of feeling safe in our homes and in our community, the rest begins to matter.
Travis, what initiatives are the most important to you?
Great question. It's easy for us to get up here and talk about how we're going to spend other people's money, right? But what's more important is to empower the people to do more volunteer events. And the more we volunteer, the more we help our neighbors, the better we feel, and the less we need to rely on someone else to do it for us. So there's people hurting, there's people in need in our communities, there's people hungry. And I'd like to see more volunteer food drives and trash cleanups, and helping people move if they need help moving. And all these things cost $0 if we can volunteer more in our community and not rely on public funding. I believe that there's a real lack in volunteering in our society in general. And I want to see more neighbors helping neighbors, and friends helping friends, and friends helping enemies, just in general, just helping each other so that we can have a better community. And we don't have to rely on tax money and volunteer and public funds to do good. So creating volunteer community events, tree planting events, these kind of things to get the community active and helping each other is really a big initiative of mine. Because I believe volunteering is the best thing we can do as individuals, not only for other people, but it actually helps us individually when we give of our time and our effort and our energy. And I just believe that makes a happy and safe and prosperous community. So that's one of them right there.
Brian, what initiatives are the most important to you?
Well, there are three. I think safety. Let's go back to safety. We have an opportunity to talk about all these things because we get to get in our car, go home, and we feel safe. So, oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Safety. So, as I said, we get to leave after this and go in our cars and go home, and get to feel safe. So, I don't think you can put too much emphasis on that because once with the growth, things start to creep up. I've lived in a lot of cities, and it's safe until it's not safe. Number one. Number two, there's definitely some kind of disconnect between the people I talk to, and I've talked to a lot, and what is going on with the town, and I think some of the strategic planning. I'm not quite sure. I know Dan Barry put something out there. I've heard he's done a fantastic job in giving information to the people. I think there needs to be more of that. I would like to do something like that. It's the difference between the groupthink and the group IQ. No matter how good the town council is and how smart they are, these things are going to be missed. And I think we need the town. We can have a seat at the table. How we do that and how we communicate with each other, those are questions that need to be answered. But I think ideas can be fed. And that's the beauty of this whole thing is the group IQ. And, no one's talked about the bond. So the bond is an initiative that's out there already. And, I'm in favor of it. A lot of people, they're up and down about it. It's a lot of money. It's $100 million. Taxes will go up to some component. But what the town council has done because of the rating of the bond and being able to borrow money cheaply over 20 years, which means other people will buy into this when they have property, it gives them an opportunity to streamline an amenity. So nobody wants their taxes going up, and you can't line item everything. But from the perspective of fair value for the taxes, that has to be taken into consideration. Now, you may not like the bond, but if you don't have options, you don't have choices. So look at this bond like a Toyota. You may not want the Toyota, but the next bond that comes up, you may want that car. So the point is, keep the AAA rating and take into consideration that the bond is an initiative to take a hard look at.
Chris, what initiatives are the most important to you?
First, I hope that you elect me to the town council because as a town council member, I am a vessel to the community. So it is less about me. As much as I am a resident, I'm a tax-paying resident here, it is much about my initiatives. It's about what I hear. So one of the couple of things, and I was jotting down, I went kind of last, so a couple of things that I've heard from the town that the number one initiative needs to be is infrastructure. So someone asked yesterday, well, why don't we build the roads before we do all the building? And I said, well, you have to have the funding to build the roads, so you bring in the building and the infrastructure and the housing, then you can bring in the infrastructure. So we had that. We got that out of the way. So what else can we do? One of the things that we can do is we bring in the Amgens, the Fujis, and some of these other biopharma companies that are coming in. We can get other entryways to Route 1 from Holly Springs. So traffic is tight within the town, but if we can make more entrances and exits onto Route 1, onto 540 around the town, that makes a little bit more free-flowing throughout the town. The second thing is diverse housing. I really like the fact that a lot of these developers are coming in and they have a variety of different housing types that they're bringing in. And sometimes it's apartments, sometimes it's mixed use, sometimes it's small lots, sometimes it's larger lots. I'd like to see that so that we give people an opportunity to purchase what they want and giving people a chance at home ownership. So for me, those would be the first two things that I would really like to see as major initiatives. Thanks.
Jack, what initiatives are the most important to you?
There's so many, and a lot of them wouldn't even cost us anything. So I've talked before about intratown transit and connectivity. I think that's a really important opportunity that we could use to connect people to a lot of different aspects of our town, our farmers market, our renters, our 55 and over communities, all the major hubs, diverse housing. You keep the small town feel by keeping the people that you've built community and relationships with. And we have to have the kind of housing that will allow us to do that, so that our community is not just for a select period of time, but for generations. I'd like to see some changes in the UDO. Right now, we are one of the most expensive places in North Carolina to build, which makes it really hard for builders to offer much in the way of housing affordability or middle income housing. The clear cutting that we talked about before would be a good change to the UDO. I'm interested in initiatives around historic preservation. This town has a rich history, and we have the Pack House sitting up on Main Street in a state of disrepair for many, many years. And there have been lots of residents who have expressed that they would like to find a way to honor the history of that location. And I'd like to see us have a historical preservation committee in order to get residents' input on how to do that and explore those options. I'd like to see us pass the NDO, and I would like to see crossing guards for our schools, which would be a line item budget in our town. A lot of people were saying, you know, Wake County should do that. They don't actually do that in other towns. That's a town responsibility. And in order to keep our kids safe, I'd like to see that happen as well.
Thank you. Staci, what initiatives are the most important to you?
Thank you, and I hope you don't mind if I stand up for a second because I have a bad back and it's just killing me. So the main initiatives that I definitely am very passionate about, along with definitely with school safety and crossing guards for our young ones, community involvement, volunteering, people getting involved, getting connected, sidewalks for transportation. One interesting thing about coming here from where I'm from up north is I'm like, where are all the sidewalks? So we definitely could use that as ways for people to get around. Improving the water quality is definitely a passion of mine because I believe in having good quality water. Everyone should have quality drinking water because it is the lifeblood for everyone. And transportation and roads, thinking about you know, coming back to our infrastructure, what it's going to take for growth and being able to ensure